Okay, we're going to try this one more time. Sorry about that. I deleted that video, so if you commented before, make sure you come back here and comment. I'm going to run over here real quick and put the links in to the comments down there, so hang tight with me. It has been a morning. It has been a morning. I have dropped and spilled and done all of the things. So it should be an eventful day, right? So we're going to make 2 recipes today. I am dropping the links on those as we speak. Let me just get back to them. What a day already. So I'm really excited because I absolutely love summertime. And the 2 things that we're doing today are 2 of my favorite summertime recipes, and we'll talk a little bit about why that is in just a minute. Let me get these links added. They should be in the comments, so it should be a fun day today. A fun day. A fun day for all. Okay, so I am Brooke, if you are just now joining us, well, this morning for the second time, and this is My Messy Kitchen. I am the owner, curator, and head dishwasher over here at the Buttered Home. We're celebrating a lot of things today, but there are 2 recipes that I'm doing with you today because it's summertime, right? So we want to use the things that we grow, and I'm going to show you 2 very practical recipes that will be able to help you, even if it's just a food gift, to make something wonderful with things from your herb garden as well as from your regular garden or your farmer's market. So don't despair if you don't have a garden. No garden is required, but these are really good ways, and we'll talk about to use up some of the things that you have in excess. Now, I had mentioned this before, but today is my birthday, so make sure you wish me a happy birthday in the comments. The more comments we get on this video, the more eyes that see it. And whenever we get done, we would really love it if you would share this video as well. That helps get more eyes on our recipes and gets more people cooking, and that's the whole point of the Buttered Home. So we're going to get started because we have 2 recipes that we've got to make. So the first recipe we're going to make, and both of these can be found at the Buttered Home. I have dropped links in the Facebook Live. I will go back if you're watching on YouTube and do that after we're done. But these recipes can be found and printed for free over at thebutteredhome.com. We always leave you some space in the printed recipe to make notes, because most all of our recipes can be added to or changed just a bit to make your own. So that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on is over the last 6 years, is that we are sharing recipes for you for free. And oftentimes you're not going to find me selling you anything. I don't have a cookbook. I believe that recipes should be curated and handed down and shared with others, and that is what the Buttered Home is all about. So very seldom will I sell you anything. But today we're making rosemary beer bread, and we're making fresh cucumber, tomato, and onion summer salad. These both make wonderful food gifts, and also they are just good to have around, I think. So we're going to talk a lot about our ingredients, where to get them if you don't grow them, and how to make the most of any excess that you may have. So we're going to start with the rosemary beer bread because it takes the longest to cook. Well, it really doesn't, because the summer salad is going to need to steep in the refrigerator for about 8 hours. But when we come back this afternoon, we're going to taste it anyway because it'll still be good. So to start with our rosemary beer bread, we have 2.5 cups of self-rising flour. Self-rising is all that you need. You don't have to add any soda or baking powder to this, so it's perfect. And the reason why, well, we'll show you in just a minute. And if you are not a beer drinker, you can use ginger ale for this. Now, it will change the flavor just a bit, but if you did want to try it with the beer that we're using, all of that alcohol content cooks off and you're left with the hops and things, which are a nice natural yeasty flavor that is often found in most breads. So don't sweat too much about the beer, because the harmful things in the beer actually cook out. So I've talked enough about that, so let's get started. So here we have 2½ cups of self-rising flour, and then to that we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of just regular table sugar, and just a pinch of salt, which a pinch in my mind is about 1/4 teaspoon. Now I'm going to just use my whisk and just sift those together. Now we have about a tablespoon of fresh herbs, and this is more than just rosemary, because this is some that I had that I needed to use. So what we have is oregano, rosemary, and basil. So I'm going to put those in, but rosemary works just fine. Now I grew these, but you don't have to. A lot of times you will buy fresh herbs at the grocery store, and then you just really don't have a need for them after you cook with them. You can dry these like I did in the sunshine on a paper towel, and then pack them in jars or bottles and save them for later. Or you can chop them up and put them in things like this beer bread and have it on hand all week, or give it away as a food gift. So those are some options for whether you grow your own herbs or if you have too many that you need to get rid of. So here I have about 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar, and you can use any cheeses that you like, but the cheese really add to the flavor of the bread. And then I have 1/2 cup of grated Parm, and we're going to put that in as well, and just kind of sift those in with our whisk. That's it. Now, we have to have a wet component, right? So that's where the beer comes in. And the reason why we use the beer is to help the bread rise. The beer will help, and this is 12 ounces of room temperature beer. Like I said, you can use ginger ale or Sprite or something like that if you wanted a non-alcoholic version, but just rest assured that the alcohols in this are actually going to cook out, because we have a 375-degree oven ready over here, and we're going to cook this loaf of bread from anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. So if you wanted to try it with the beer and experience that full flavor, then I recommend you do so. Now we're just going to give this a stir. Now, just like cake, we don't want to over mix it. You just want to make sure that you mix it just until all your dry ingredients are wet. Now I've done that with my whisk, so I'm just going to clean it off and get a paper towel. Now we just mixed it just until it came together. So I'm going to get a loaf pan, and I like to just use just some cooking spray and spray my pan. And then we're just going to put that bread right in. Breads are like cakes. You don't want to work them too much, these quick breads. Now, if you're doing sourdough or something like that, you tend to have to work those a little bit to kind of get the glutens going. But this is self-rising flour, so it's got all the gluten in it already that you need, and it is not gluten-free, so remember that. Now, if you wanted to, you could add a little more cheese on top here, or some herbs, just whatever you wanted to do. But this will go into that 375-degree oven for anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. Then we'll allow it to cool in the pan for about 5 or 10 minutes and then turn it out onto a wire rack and let it cool for another few minutes until it's ready to slice and eat. All right, so now let me get everything else ready. Because you know, on the weekends we do 2 recipes. So we're going to break down what we have first, and then we'll start everything else. So I have a big bunch of garden vegetables here. I have 2 onions. You can use white or yellow. I had a lot of these yellow Vidalia sweet onions from last weekend, so we're going to use those. And then we want to have about 3 cups of tomatoes. Now, it's better if you peel them, but you don't have to, and we're not going to today. So I've got some pretty large tomatoes, and then I have cucumbers, just regular old garden cucumbers. We're going to need about 3 cups of that too. So we're going to start processing this stuff, and then we're going to put it into just a pan to back in that pan to just kind of sit and wait while we get everything down. Now, like I said, the tomatoes are really best if you peel them, but you really don't have to. So we want about 3 cups of each of these, and we're going to use both of those onions. Now, I'm going to find my vegetable peeler, and we're going to peel these cucumbers real quick. This also makes a great food gift, And if you bought too much at the farmer's market, or if you have too many cucumbers like everybody who's growing cucumbers right now probably does, this is a pretty tasty way to get that going. Now, I'm just going to break this cucumber down. And we just want to chop these vegetables or slice them just until they all about look the same. Let me get that end piece off. And normally I do this kind of thing off camera, but I think that it adds a lot of value for you just to see how we break everything down and to not be intimidated by it. Now we're going to talk about a couple of things. I did not seed this cucumber. You can seed it if you want. And you'll notice that I'm only doing 1 cucumber at a time because we only need about 3 cups of this, and I left some of that peel on there. So it's all good. And I'm just cutting it into these little slices. Because my cucumbers are kind of big, I just do them 1 at a time until we just look like we have about 3 cups. Now we're going to get those in to our bowl. And I think we're going to do 1 more, and I think that'll be enough, which is good because Reagan and I later will slice up that other cucumber and put a little salt on it and eat it like chips. I was just going to show you a real little trick too here. If cucumbers tend to bother your stomach, but you really like them and you really want to eat them, I'm going to show you how you can have them in this salad. And we're going to talk about what bothers you and how to get rid of it most times for most people. So I've sliced it right down the middle here. And if sometimes cucumbers irritate your stomach, but you like them, you can take a spoon and just go in with your spoon and just scrape out those seeds. Just like that. Easy peasy, right? And then just trash those seeds. I'm going to do both of these halves. We'll do half of our salad that has seeds and half of it that doesn't, because seeds really don't bother me, but some people they do. And this is just an easy, safe way to de-seed that cucumber. And you can do the same thing with your tomatoes too, if you did want to de-seed those as well. You can slice them into halves, and we'll show you. We'll just do that too. We got time. So then we just slice it just like we did the other, and see, it looks much different than the other slice. But it's quick, it's easy. And if you're taking this as a food gift to friends or family, I would recommend that you do de-seed them, because you don't know what kind of sensitivity some people have. And most times, you know, it's the seeds that irritate people with intestinal or GI issues. Same thing with peppers. Most of the heat that's in peppers comes from the seeds and the membrane. Okay, so my tomatoes, you can peel these if you wanted, and you can just use a vegetable peeler like I'm doing, or you can blanch them. We have a really good post on how to blanch tomatoes to easily remove the skins and take it a step further so that you can freeze them. But it's not really necessary, because we're doing a vinegar base for this salad, and it will soften the tomatoes. But if you did want to de-seed your tomatoes, you would do the same thing essentially that we just did with the cucumbers. You would cut them on the bias in half, and you would just take your spoon and just dig those seeds out. I don't really care so much about the seeds, so we're going to leave them in, especially for the tomatoes, because the seeds and membrane for the tomatoes are pretty soft. So we're going to cut these about the same size carefully, because tomatoes are squishy, as our cucumbers. See, we cut them just little wedges, so they're about the same size. And you know, recipes like this, it's really all about the processing. And that's why I made the decision today to just kind of go through us processing everything, because safety in the kitchen is so important. It's so important, especially if you're using a knife. And we just always recommend that you just take it slow and safe if you're using a knife. You can also use a mandolin here if that makes that easier, and just break these down into more manageable pieces. But our tomatoes are a little more watery than cucumbers, so you'll notice it's going to probably take a bit more of the tomatoes to get 3 cups than it did the cucumbers, because the cucumbers are a little meatier. Okay. And you can do these in long, bigger slices if you'd like, or you can do them in smaller slices. This is the wonderful thing about recipes like this, is there's really no rule. Seed, de-seed, all of those things. That's really up to you and your taste preference. And of course, if you're giving it away. Now, you know, on Saturdays or the weekends when we do this, we always come back live later. I have a special appointment that I'm going to talk about in a little bit later this afternoon. So it may be later rather than sooner before we come back, but that's going to give this cucumber, tomato, and onion summer salad time to just kind of come together and steep a little bit. But if you have us set to favorites on Facebook, you should see us when we come live if you're following us. and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, you should also get a notification that we're going live as well. All right, so we have our cucumbers and our tomatoes, and I'm just going to give them a quick turn right there. And now I have 2 kind of medium to large onions, and I'm going to cut that root ball and the stem portion off. And we're just going to break those down so that they end up being in slices. So we talked about this last week whenever we did the Sweet Vidalia dressing, that we just want to take just that top skin off. If you can get it all, get the paper layer off all in one layer, that's great. But if not, you can go down just to that very thin top layer and just peel it off. I don't like taking too much off because, well, you know, if you want onion, we want onion. We don't want to throw away the majority of our onion. And if you haven't watched that, you can go to our live section on both platforms and see where we went live last week. So that one came off pretty good, but it's got some brown spots, so we're gonna take that off. And if you get weepy while doing this, just think of yourself as crying over how good your food is gonna be. My grandmother used to hold a matchstick in her mouth. She used to put the wood end of a matchstick in her mouth and let the flint end out, and supposedly it helped. I've never been able to tell that it helped me all that much, but I don't typically weep a lot whenever it comes to when I cut onions either. So we're just going to carefully slice these. And this is also a good time to use a mandolin if you're not comfortable with a knife. And I start out slicing, and then I will turn my onion to a more stable flat side and start on the low end to slice again. And you get pretty good at this over time. And if you can take your knife and leave the point side down and carefully hold your fingers with your knuckles kind of down back here, then you work this portion of your knife. And if you notice, I have this pointer finger that I hold the knife with carefully tucked but in control of the neck of the knife. Those are just a few knife tips that kind of can help you have some control. And probably the most important tip of all is to make sure your knife is sharp, because most times in the kitchen when we get cut while we're cooking, it's because our knife is dull. So I don't want people to be afraid to use their knife, because that cuts down on the amount of special equipment that so many people feel like they have to have. And at some point we just run out of room for all the gadgets and things like that, right? So, okay, we're going to get our sliced onion in here with our tomatoes and our cucumbers. But good, safe knife skills are something I think everybody should possess. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to kind of get down in there with our hands and just kind of toss everything together. Now you'll notice I did not break up my onions, but they just fall apart. So whenever we're doing this portion of the mix is when a lot of that happens. Okay, so now we're good and all mixed up. I'm going to give my hands a rinse and just wipe off my cutting board. and move everything out of the way because we just have to do a quick little come together here. Now, I've got 2 jars over here ready to go. This is going to make more than 2 jars, but I've got 2 food gifts that I want to give, and we have enough of what we made here today together for me to be able to pack those up and give them away, and that's the goal. And then we'll put the rest in a airtight container and keep them in the fridge and eat off of it all week. Or Reagan will probably take it all home with her when she comes today because this is her favorite thing. All right, so to a medium boiler, we are going to put in 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of white vinegar, and you can use apple cider or some other type of vinegar that you may have on hand. I just know that most people have white vinegar, so it's easily available. And then we're going to put in 1/2 cup of water. Turn my water back here off. And over low heat, I'm just going to stir this until that sugar melts. Now that I've made sure that that sugar is not all sticking to the bottom, I've got about 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and we're just going to put that right over the top of our vegetables, and then I'm going to just kind of give those a turn to get that salt and pepper mixed in. And I'm doing that off camera, but you just have to trust me. Here, I can do this. I can come back this way. And I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just getting my tongs in there and just kind of mixing all of those together and getting that salt and pepper nice and mixed in. Now, once that sugar melts, which won't take long over low to medium heat, we will set it aside and just let it cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pickling brine, which is essentially what we've made here. It's a sweet pickling brine. You can use more salt than sugar, but that's, and dill. I would suggest if you wanted a dill portion of this, that you use about 1/2 cup of, 1/4 or 1/2 cup of good regular sea salt, because it's not as salty, or kosher salt rather, because it's not as salty as table salt. And then some dill in with your salt and pepper, and then your vinegar and your water. Okay, so you see that's clear, it's melted. That's all we want. We don't want to boil it. We don't want to do anything else. So now I'm going to clear some things out of the way. And once that cools, which I think it's cool enough, we're going to pour that over our vegetables. Now what I will do at this point is I will cover it after I give it a good kind of mix together. That vinegar and sugar and water will start to pull, and the salt will start to pull out the natural juices from the vegetables. So it didn't look like a lot of liquid, but it will end up being a lot of liquid. So we will cover this and we will chill it for about 8 hours. Now, if you did pack this in jars, you want to make sure that you only fill up the jar about a quarter with that liquid, because as it sits, it will make more liquid, and then every once in a while you just take the jar and you just shake it. But personally for me, I like to do it in a big bowl and cover it and let it marinate for that 8 hours before I pack it in the jars, so that I know how much liquid I actually have, because the liquid amount will be very different after that steep time than what it is right now. That bread is baking, and so you know the drill. We'll be back after I take pictures of everything and taste everything, and we'll go ahead and give this a taste too, even though it won't be 8 hours. Sometimes I can't wait. But both of these recipes are very simple, very easy. We'll come back on YouTube and link the recipes in the comments there. They're already linked for you here on Facebook. As usual, I always have a great time with y'all, cooking with y'all in the kitchen, but you know, on days like today when it's my birthday, I can't think of any other way that I would rather spend my birthday than with being with my friends and family, and that includes all of you, and we get the bonus of cooking together. So we'll be back later this afternoon. I don't know what time. I have a very good friend coming today who is also the owner of the Small Town Life. Sean will be here, and he and I will be doing a podcast interview for his podcast, which I will also link in the comments so that you can give it a listen. It is all about conversations on the front porch about the Southern way of life, the small town way of life, and he has some really great small town life options. You've probably seen some of those on TikTok or other platforms, Instagram. He is a good friend of mine and a neighbor, and he and I will be talking today, and I'm trying to talk him into coming back live with me, but we'll see what his schedule allows. But we'll be back this afternoon to taste everything and show you the finished product. So y'all stay tuned, set us to favorites on Facebook, hit that subscribe and the bell on YouTube so that you can be notified when we come back. From me and all of us here at The Buttered Home, we'll see y'all after a while. Bye.